Pattison Ave, lights burn bright, whole CK and Willie bringing the fight. Fuji's top stories to make your night, with Alice take sharp as a knife. We're rocking out and heading up the scene. Sports fanatic dreams extreme. From the Eagles' pride to Phillies' dreams, stay tuned and your screen turns green. Pattison Ave Phanatics take the reins. With fire written on veins, we spark the flames. Break it up high, no holding back. We're breaking the mold, stay on track.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Pattison Ave Phanatics Show. I'm your host, Tom Kelly. With me, as always, Alan Andrukavich.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Mike Fuji in the building.
What's going on, Bills? Take 2 or 3 from the world champs. 17 days till the NFL draft. What's up, fellas? Let's get the party rocking started. Let's kick some ass. Steve Jeltz will be in the house. How's everybody after a 3-week?
Listen here. This man has a sinus infection, and he comes out with that kind of energy. You just got to love this stuff, man. This Philly sports stuff. It is a phenomenal time right now to be a Phillies fan. They're coming out of the gate firing. Like Fuji said so emphatically, we've taken 2 of 3 from the world champs. And this team is starting to shape up to look like they mean business in the MLB and especially in the NL East. Gentlemen, what's going on? How's everybody doing? Back from a little 2-week hiatus. What have you boys been up to?
Just chilling, man. Watching the Phils. Yeah, I'm excited for them. They look like a different baseball team. But I'm still concerned a little bit, I guess, but excited. This March Madness has been crazy.
Oh,
we got that Houston Duke game came down to the woo. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. Besides, getting ready to sell my house.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
that's always big time.
Lots of stuff going on.
Fuge, you good over there, brother?
Yeah, just fighting. I don't know. Sinuses.
I hear you. Listen.
That's why I look like I'm half. My eyes are like.
You got hit over the head with a kendo stick from the Sandman.
Yeah, like a raccoon. I don't know.
So
ECW,
the old Vikings hole in South Philly, baby.
Yes, sir.
It's like you said, Tom. This team does mean business, but it is April baseball. But hey,
exactly.
Right out of the gate, they made a statement this past weekend. They, like I said, they took 2 or 3. So
that's huge. They haven't lost a series so far. Only a few series in, but real quick before we kind of start picking apart the Phils and before Mr. Jeltz gets on, which Fuge, thank you for booking another great guest. You are the man, brother.
Glad to,
I am a Philadelphia sports fan through and through. Anybody who knows me knows this. It's been my entire life. My father, my mother, diehard Philadelphia sports fans. If I would go over my grandparents' house, there was always the Phillies on. But I would be remiss if I did not salute Alexander Ovechkin for doing something that many people thought would never, ever, ever be done. We're not talking some minuscule record that a lot of people have had a crack at. It's 1 and 1A. And now Alexander Ovechkin is the all-time goal scorer in the NHL. And even though I'm a diehard Flyers fan and he's made my life miserable for a lot of years, got to take my hats off to him, man. Got to take
absolutely.
Well,
absolutely. Was it 986 goals? Is that what he scored?
895. Gretzky scored 894. The craziest part of this entire
dyslexia. Yeah.
The craziest part of this entire thing Wayne Gretzky scored 894 goals in 1,486 games. Alexander Ovechkin scored 895 goals in 1,487 games. Only one more game to score one more goal. I mean, over a 20-year career, roughly, give or take. Incredible, man. I'm blessed to know a couple of folks from a lifetime ago that a buddy of mine worked for the Washington Capitals. He works for the NHL now. And he said, "You want to talk about the most down-to-earth superstar you'd ever meet? It's that guy,
Alex Ovechkin."
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, and dude came into the locker room.
In general.
Yeah,
Hockey players in general are like just
comes in the locker room.
Like, you can just they just blend.
Right.
They just blend right in.
Like,
you know?
I remember being a kid watching Wayne Gretzky beat Bobby Orr's record, and I remember watching how graceful he was in doing that. And I was watching an interview yesterday, I think it was, and it might have been this morning on the Crapper, but anyway. And it was Wayne Gretzky talking to his dad, and he said he almost felt bad scoring more goals than his idol growing up playing hockey, than the greatest hockey player in his eyes that had ever played hockey. And his dad was like,
Brett Hull?
No, Bobby Orr. And his dad was like,
Bobby Orr, my bad.
He goes, "What are you, nuts?" He goes, "You earned this." He goes, "Just make sure you have as much class and dignity when someone breaks your record that he has when you broke his goal scoring record." And I think that was in like the low 800s, 801 or 802. I think Gretzky ended up beating him. But like people see me, they see me talk football, they see me talk baseball, basketball. I'm a puck head too, man. I've watched hockey all my life. I played hockey, huge. And look, it's kind of a Philly thing. That's part of our DNA. Like street hockey in the 80s and 90s in Philly was like, not to mention basketball, like street basketball in the 90s and 2000s, street hockey in the 80s and 90s, there was nothing like it. And I have to, any of my friends from South Philly are watching right now. They can attest. And I used to be that guy. I would skate to the basketball court with a basketball in my bag, my hockey stick, and my sneakers in my bag. And I would go back and forth. And Will had some stuff going on, couldn't be on the show tonight. Will knows we're 4 for 4 guys. But again, I'm a little long-winded here. I'm sorry. I just want to circle it back around to Alexander Ovechkin. Hats off to you. I've watched this record get broken twice now.
There you go.
Well,
there you go.
Kind of coincidental you bring that up, because last week there was something on Facebook, an old picture of old-time photos in Philadelphia. And the thing of it was a picture like a bunch of kids in Flyers jerseys, one kid in goalie pads and the whole bit, and the net, and they were all hanging out. And there was probably like 700 messages about, like different streets and neighborhoods playing street hockey.
Look, I played hockey down. If you're from South Philly, you know what 3TO is. I played hockey down 30th and Tasker. We would play against guys from 2M6, 26 and Mars. We played at guys from 10th and Shunk, 2nd and Jackson, 16th and Jackson, and South Philly. The corner you hung on, that's the guys that you played sports with. Yep, football, basketball. I'm sure it was the same where you grew up at. I'm sure it was the same where you grew up at too, Alan. It's just our neighborhoods are broken down into smaller neighborhoods in South Philly, and then broken down even smaller into parishes, and then smaller into corners. So,
Whistle Stop was always a spot. That's where we used to go. Where I used to go ball out. Street hockey, I could never skate. All right, my brother could. My brother played ice hockey. He could always skate. I was a dude running around. I was that one dude running around with no skates.
Yeah,
just running. I was that dude. I was that dude. But yeah, street hockey, dude. Back in the early '90s, late '80s. Yeah. It was It was all out.
So when it came to, well, I guess we'll do a little history lesson here. When it came to street hockey, when it came to playing, I think for 2 days I played without skates, and then I was like, no way. That looks so much more fun. So I made myself, I fell, I busted my ass a bunch of times, but I made myself learn how to skate. And then I have a when I'm into something type thing, I'm going to. Bro. Yes, sir. Yes, I do. That. Most of the. Well, you know that. You've known me a long time. But I work at it. I would skate. I would skate to work. I worked in town coming from South Philly. It was a half-hour skate. I would skate to work when you're growing up in the city and you're growing. Anywhere. Where I'm at now, I see a lot of these kids that are into sports too, and I think that's great.
Yeah,
Steve's in the lobby. We'll pull Steve. We'll pull Mr. Jeltz up here in a few minutes, but to get back to it, those times growing up and being able to, hang out with your buddies in the corner, and one corner plays another corner in the city. That was it for me. There was exactly.
Bragging rights, just beating them.
100%. 100%. But back around, we'll work our way back around here to the fightings. I kind of went off on a tangent. Just again, had to give Alexander Ovechkin, or Ovi as he's known, his flowers.
Oh, he definitely deserves it. He deserves it.
100%. Joining us in the lobby right now, former Philadelphia Philly, Mr. Steve Jeltz. Steve, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate
yes, sir. Thank you so much.
We good. Opened up with the Phils, but Alexander Ovechkin, I don't know if you follow much hockey or anything like that, but he beat out Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring record, which it was a record that nobody thought would be broken last night. And so I was just giving the man his flowers because he totally deserves it.
Perfect. Yeah, I heard a little bit about that this afternoon. I was on the radio. I was driving and I heard it. So, congratulations. Even
though I'm a diehard Philly sports fan, the guy's given me nightmares for years, but, it is what it is. So this is thank you. This is your first time here on the Pattison Ave Phanatics Show, so aptly named because we're all diehard Philly sports fans.
Sir.
I want to jump right into this. I'm dying to know, gentlemen as yourself, played in the 80s. You were drafted by the Phillies, I believe, from what I read, in 1980, and you played up through 1990?
Yes, sir.
What do you think about these torpedo bats that the New York Yankees broke out?
No, I'm not a fan of that. I think, we're looking at a lot of the gimmicks that are coming into the game. And Major League Baseball has a history, and that history was made by guys my teammates, some of them, Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, these guys played the game, and we played the game with a wooden bat, and it was a regular wooden bat, and balls aren't juiced, and we played the game. So, to me, it's a little concerning based on what's going down in history. When we're talking about some of the things that have happened, home runs, you're watching that happen. I saw a game. One night, and I can't remember who was hitting, but did we lose it somewhere? I could tell the balls hit well. Now this ball, when it came off his bat in normal speed, I thought, fly ball to right, and it's like 10 rows back, and it's down by the label, and I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Right.
So you can see something's going on, but the fans like home runs, they say, so I think that's what they're shooting for. I think it's kind of dangerous having some of these bats in there because they brought that to us about using an aluminum bat in the big leagues, and we all were adamant no. Because, I'm catching 150-mile-an-hour line drives, and we play the game. I think people understand we play the game every day. So your arm strength, your hand strength, your forearm swinging a baseball bat for 10 or 11 months out of the year it's completely different than these kids in college. when you're in college, you play, 40 games, and I mean, you go through that, but it's not like ours and the way we play the game. And so we were adamant against that bat because, I mean, number one, it's dangerous. Guys that hit the ball as hard as guys in the major league hit the ball, you're looking at pitchers that are you're gonna have some devastating effects if a ball's hit right back at a pitcher with some of these bats. I mean, it's fast enough, when somebody crushes the ball, Andre Dawson or Barry Bonds or even Mike Schmidt and anybody like that. I think when I was at shortstop, I used to say, if you hit it like that, get it up. Don't
get it up in the air.
Catching the ball. Yeah, you're catching balls off the bat, and if they get it like that, you get it up because they used to say marry guys off the infield. That's a dangerous place to be. So I think with the new gimmick bats and all that, I don't know how they're allowing that to happen based upon the history of the game and the guys who played the game. What do their records look like now? How do you compare that to what was happening in the Raw back in the day? So I think Major League Baseball needs to stay where it is. I mean, where it was, and we get back to playing the game the way it was meant to be played. I see, at second base, I mean, I can show you my left leg, and I was pretty good at turning double plays, so I didn't get hit much. They call me a musician out there sometimes, and I get out of the way and to get a ball off. Andre Dawson or Bull Durham, Leon Durham in Chicago came in at me one time, and it was going to be close. Ball wasn't hit real hard, and he was on first base, and I caught it and got rid of it and disappeared. And he slid and slammed into the bag, and I jumped over him, and I turned around and looked, and he said, "Where'd you go?" And so, I mean, that was part of the game. You can wind up in left field, Ricky Henderson or Lonnie Smith coming down at you. You better watch out. People used to say, Bill Madlock, guys like that, they're coming out there, and I mean, it was full bore linebacker coming after you. And, I mean, they make you get down when I got in the game, but early before me, it was really dangerous. And then, when I was playing, in the 80s, it was still the same game, but they started outlawing some of the slide, bounce up and rolls and all that stuff. They started changing a little bit of that. But now it's just you can't even touch them. You can't break up a double play. You can't block home plate. I mean, all those things. Pete Rose ran over the catcher in the All-Star game. I mean, that's
it did.
Awesome. So we played hard and we played the game. And it's like, you get a little boo-boo, you spit on it and keep playing. You go
exactly. And you played, and talk about playing with guys that are like linebackers. I think, weren't you on Bo Jackson's team your final year in Kansas City? You want to talk about a linebacker? Oh my God.
Yeah,
can you imagine trying to tell him not to knock somebody over if they tried to block the plate? He would laugh at you.
Oh yeah. Just see, I don't know if I'd want to block the plate. Bo coming around that corner.
No, God, no.
I'm not blocking the plate.
Eldora, woo, with the with the sheet. Like woo, go ahead.
Yeah,
100%.
Musician, yeah, exactly. So
and you,
Bo was probably, I mean, for me to say the best natural, gifted, talented athlete that I ever had the opportunity to play with. I mean, just strong and fast and quick, 235 pounds, and gets out like he weighs 170 pounds, and he's quick and then powerful on top of it, and just so many things. I remember I was sitting on the bench and we were sitting on the bench in Baltimore and just talking, and I laughed. I said, when Boz was block at the goal line and he came down there, everybody remembers that one.
Yes, sir.
And I looked at him and everybody said, "Oh man, did you see how Bo ran him over?" And I said it for years before I ever talked to Bo. I said it for years. I said, "Yeah, he pulled up on that." He said, I said, "Bo," I said, "Did you pull up on that?" He said, "Jeltz," he stuttered, he said, "Jeltz, if I wouldn't have pulled up, I would have killed him, but he ran over him like he didn't pull up. He ran right over him. And I mean, he's just, the laws of physics are still they're there in football. And if you're going to try and tackle a man like that, you better get some momentum going towards him. You can't stand flat-footed and think you're going to stop that. That's a freight train coming at you. So,
it's like trying to tackle
momentum
a Dodge Charger.
Momentum and get low.
I watched some of his.
I don't know if you get low enough for Bo.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. He used to get real low himself. So.
That's powerful. And I played with the Hall of Famers, and I mean, this guy here, he could just, as far as him knowing the game and being, he was actually late on his jumps on getting the balls and late on getting the right position. But because he was such a phenom, he would make up for it with his speed and his agility. I mean, imagine if he came in and he had all that footwork and all the things that go with it. He was playing this game on natural ability, and just because he's an athlete, that's how he played the game. All of us, we played the game because we studied it, we worked on it, we did all these things we had to do to be that good. And for him, he walks in and he's just playing the game. Just on natural ability. It's phenomenal.
Growing up in that era, he was one of my favorite athletes all time. I watched a highlight video the other day. He threw on a frozen rope a ball from left field and got one of the Seattle Mariners out at home plate. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but no human being is supposed to be able to throw the ball like that from that distance.
He had a cannon on him. He hit the ball a long way and he hit it hard. He toned his swing down a little bit, and remember the era when I went to Kansas City, he came over to the bench after we had two guys on or something, and he struck out and broke the bat over his leg, and it's because he was taking too big of a swing, and they had his number, and so he would take that great big swing and he was striking out, and then he'd break the bat over his leg, and the fans in Kansas City cheered, and I'm like, what are they cheering about? And, he broke a bat over his leg. I said, wait a minute, how about we hit the ball? So I had talked with him, and I just came from Philly. So it was, I had Pete and Smitty and Gary Maddox and Matthews and, just all of them, and a Hall of Fame team. So, it's one of those things where you come in and you kind of, I was a 8-year veteran when I come into Kansas City to play with a 3-year rookie, as far as I was concerned with Bo. The way we came in Philly, you earned your way up through the ladder. When you're a rookie, you're sitting on the front of the plane, toward the front of the plane with the reporters and everybody that sits there, and all the veterans are at the back of the plane playing cards. I mean, you kind of just had to go through those steps. And so when I came into Kansas City and I saw Bo needed to work on that, I said, Bo, I remember giving him my bat, and I said, he grabbed my bat. He acted like it was a toothpick and he stuck it in. He said, what's this? I said, you need to learn how to, short and quick, shorten it up. And he started hitting with it. He started hitting with his bat. So he comes out and he goes out and he hits 3 consecutive home runs and 3 consecutive at bats. And then he goes down. I think there was a record was 4 in a row. So he goes down and he's on the DL for I think 7 or 10 days. And he comes back and his next at bat and Randy Johnson's pitching.
Oh my God.
So to get this fourth one, he's got to hit this first at bat. He's got to hit this home run off of Randy Johnson after 10 days off. And he came in there and he hit a rope up, and we call it trickle up on the hill. And I think it might have been in the fountain in Kansas City in Royal Stadium, but that was his 4th consecutive at bat, 4 home runs he did off Randy Johnson. So
against Randy Johnson. I got a chance to
play with some guys that can play. I see somebody sent me a
Norm is my partner over here at Cole County Entertainment. He's Pete Rose, Hall of Fame? ?
Oh my goodness! What's taking so long?
Exactly.
Come on. He's gone now. My first baseman in the big leagues, but the guy just played hard, natural ability. There was no gimmicks to it. You got to put him in the Hall of Fame. He still got more hits than anybody in the history of the game. Still. And so I don't think that's ever going to be broken, so, every time you say never, you don't ever say never. I guess
that's very true. We just seen that last night. Food, you had something? What were you going to say, buddy?
Steve, I was going to ask you, I know getting you on was thanks for, getting back to me, and here you are. I know when we talked, you said you came up you came up during the 83 run with Darren Dalton as a rookie, right? I believe.
Yeah, I think Darren went to big league camp before I did, and then he came out of high school, and I came out of the University of Kansas. And then Darren used to come up to my house. He's from Mark City, Kansas, and he used to come up to my house in Lawrence. and because I grew up in Lawrence as well, and he would stay with me, and we'd go up to KU because I played there, and and we'd hit in the cage over the winter, and we'd work out. I mean, I like working out with Darren because we work out like football players. We worked out, we really worked hard, and then he'd jump in his Toyota Supra, and I jumped in my smoking the Bandit Trans Am I had, and we drive down to Clearwater. So Darren, I came up in '83, and the beginning of that run, we clinched in Chicago, won the National League East, and then we went to LA and we won the National League, and then we had to go to play Baltimore in the World Series. And I think probably the only regret, people always ask me if I have any regrets in the big leagues. And I was 24 years old and I was playing, and I was a part of the team, and I was excited about it, but at the end of the day, I want to play. So Yvonne, we were kind of splitting some time here and there, and I had some pretty crucial times of playing during that time. And so I think what happened was the old guys got together, Pete and Joe, and I don't know who else was in on that, but I know those two were in on it, and they were talking about, well, we're going to keep an extra pitcher, and it's kind of tough on the rookie to play in the World Series, so you can go with us, but you can't play. We're going to keep an extra pitcher. Oh, and I remember I was 24 years old. I was upset about that.
Oh yeah, I'm
and
sure you were hot.
What do you mean I can't play? I said, I helped get you here. What do you mean I can't play? Well, I think that might have been something that the reason why they called me back, because who does what I did? They said, well, you can go sit on the bench, or you can go home and watch. I said, get my ticket. I'm going home. And I said, I'm on there. I said, if I can't play, why am I going? And so I was, 24 years old, full of piss and vinegar,
I get it.
Make some decisions. I look back on it now and wish I would have gone, but I got my National League championship. We got a ring for National League championship. We actually won the PCL that year, so I got 2 rings that year. And then in AAA and in the big leagues, and then they end up losing to Baltimore. So, I would have got a World Series ring, but I felt good about the National League championship ring. That's the one I played, and we got that one, but it was unfortunate that we lost the World Series. But
Steve, I got a question for you. We were talking about the torpedo bats and whatnot. And I imagine that you not played with Barry Bonds, but played against him, right? Barry had a shorter bat with a wider barrel, right?
Very
is that typical towards the torpedo bat, or is that like something buried or just used in general there?
Well, I think if you look at some of the hitters, Rod Carew and all the guys, I mean, especially on a 2-strike hit, on a two strike count, you move in on the plate a little bit so you can reach everything, and anything inside you're gonna fight it off. Well, Barry starts out inside and chokes up, so you're not getting in on him. And a pitch that's middle away looks like it's in the inside on him, and if you get it in on him and he turns on it, he's going to just yank it foul. So the key was trying to get the ball inside on him, which good luck. He's choked up and his hands are fast. And I mean, that young man was hitting the baseball. I'm telling you, his dad hit the ball. It's like Junior Griffey and his dad. I mean, these guys came out, and when they come up to the plate, you better be ready because they're hitting the ball hard. That's one of those you say, if you're going to hit it, pop it up or get it up.
Yeah. There we go.
Now, Steve, I have a question. When I think baseball, brings me back to my childhood, brings me back to being a young guy, and I think about you think about things that like, wow, what did these guys experience when they first came up? And so I broke out one of my old boxes the other day, and just to show you that I am here, I am legit, I am an old school Phillies fan from way back. What was it like? What was the first time you saw yourself on a baseball card? What was that like?
Great question.
I never had all that in all. I never was that. I grew up, my brother was like the first Bo Jackson. He was 6'4", 235 coming out of high school. And I mean, I had to look at his records at the middle school and at the high school, and everybody said the only person who's going to break him is you, and I couldn't break him. He was an athlete. He threw his arm out, and he wanted to play baseball, and they wanted him to play right field, and he wanted to pitch, and he ended up throwing his arm out doing so. They didn't have all the stuff they have now for fixing it, so he was pretty much done. But I played with the older guys, and they won football state championships. They were 7 years older than me. I bat boyed for the Legion. When my brother was 18, he was throwing 92, 93, and I was a bat boy, but I used to warm him up in between innings. Those guys that they threw between 85 and 92 or 93, and I was 11, and I was catching them. So, I got used to, they didn't cut me much break. At first, when they threw the ball to me, they'd take a little off. But after I got used to it, they saw I could handle it. And so, I played with them. So when I got in there with Pete and Joe, and I tell you, the one thing, my all moment was coming to Philadelphia. And we had just come from Hawaii in AAA. And we were in Portland, Oregon. We were playing Pittsburgh Pirates. And we flew back from Portland. From Hawaii to Portland, and then the next day we had an optional batting practice, and so I wait, and I said I'm not going to optional batting practice, long flight, I got to play 9 tonight, so I said I'm just going to come in later, and so I come in normal time. When I get there, I got a pink slip on my locker, and I was hitting the ball good. I was playing pretty good, and earlier we had played against the Phillies team, the big league team. We had an exhibition game against them, and little Joe wasn't going to play, so the Phillies tell me. They say, well, they call over to our clubhouse. They say, send Jeltz over here. And so I wore little Joe's uniform and played shortstop for the Phillies in AAA against my team.
Wow.
Eddie Miller and Davis. And we had Kevin Gross. We had a team. And we had them. It was 5-5. I'm playing shortstop with the Phillies instead of my team, but it was 5-5. And I come up to the plate with man on third base for the Phillies. I don't know who was on third, but I come up against my team, in the 8th inning, and I got a man on third with 1 out, and I get a fastball out over the plate, and I hit it pretty daggone good. I hit it deep in the right center, and Eddie Miller ran it down, sac fly, and so Phillies go up 6-5. Well, I've never lived that down to my team.
I'm sure.
After that game, everybody was like, Jeltz, really right now? I'm like,
dude, that's close.
I'm on the spot right now here. I come to play. So anyway, we went to Hawaii and then came back and landed in Portland. And the next day I come back, pink slip on my locker. And that means go see the trainer. Don't get dressed. So either you're going home or you're going to the big leagues or whatever. You don't know what's happening. So, or you're going back down to triple or double A or something. So I come out and I already set in my mind, I'm not going backwards. I'll go back home and go to law school. I was going back to school. So anyway, I come out and John Felsky was a manager. He was out in center field and he came walking over. He said, well, Phillies are making some moves. He said, you can go back down to double A and play every day. And in my mind right now, I'm getting ready to say, well, I'm getting ready to go home. So, and then they say, you can go to the big leagues and sit on the bench. So that's how I got to Philly. So it was a Sunday day game when I flew in. Now, I'm a kid from Kansas. Grew up working on a dairy farm, hunting and fishing, playing sports. So I get it. The limo picks me up at the airport in Philly, and we're in a pennant race. I know nothing about Philadelphia.
Right.
So I come across the water. When we come across the bridge there, I come across the bridge, all of a sudden I start seeing it. And there are so many people out there. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's crazy because they know I'm in this car. Excuse me, the gates open up, and Steve Jeltz is in there. I'm hearing this, and I'm like, what and where am I at? And the fans are just crazy wild. And so I get there, and they pull up to the front office, we go down to the clubhouse, and there's Pete and Joe and Mike Schmidt and everybody, Lefty, and Tug McGraw, everybody's there. Gary Maddox, Matthews, Joe Morgan, all of them. So I'm walking here, 24 years old, and so I'm watching the game. Obviously, we're getting ready to play the game of the week. Twib notes we had the baseball game of the week. So 60,000 people, national TV, and I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm kind of got jet lag because I just flew from Hawaii and then from Portland to Philly. So it's a Sunday day game. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm in the vet, and all of a sudden, Smitty comes up we're down by 2, and Smitty comes up with 2 men on and 2 outs. And so I'm just sitting there watching this game, and Smitty pops up to the catcher. And I never in my life heard the boos like that in my life. And I looked over at and they said, welcome to the big league, welcome to Philadelphia, rookie. And then the manager tells me go to third base. So on top of the night, then third.
He told you to go to third base.
They just booed him. And I'm like, they just booed Mike Smith. You want me to go to third?
Right? Okay. This guy's an all-timer, and you know, that's it's funny that you mentioned that. You segued right into the next question I was going to ask. Like, what was it like playing in front? Now you've played in a bunch of stadiums all over the place. What made this town? What made Philly? What the fans? Are we just out of our minds? See, I've been told we're very cerebral, though. We do know the game, even though we're out of our minds.
Right there. What I was going to say, it's like you know, I come into Philadelphia and I see the first thing they're booing Smitty, and I go to third, and we're playing the Cubs. So Manny Trio's there, Bobby Denier's there, Ryan Sandberg's there, and they all know this is my debut. And they're walking up to that plate, and they're looking down over their shoulder like, okay, here you are, Jeltz. Bobby D squares around like he's going to bunt. And I was already a half a step in front of the bag, and I'm not coming in any closer. So I'm staying here, and I say, go ahead and bunt it if you want to bunt it. So the long story short, I get all three balls in that first.
Wow.
All three. And the third one, when I threw it out, when I threw him out, that third ball I got, when I threw it out, the fans, I mean, I never felt anything. I never really was nervous because I was just in there playing the game. And I was half tired probably from jet lag. But, you know, I was just there to play the game. No, you don't have time to be nervous when they throw you out at third base in the big leagues. I promise you. You better get in there and start paying attention to what's happening, catch the ball. So, you know, I started running off the field after that third out I made. And the fans, it made my knees buckle. Let's put it that way. I was running off the field, and I was like, they came out with the first one I threw out, and they cheered. The second one I threw out, and they cheered a little louder. But when I threw that, the third one was kind of, I think if I remember correctly, it was kind of a tough play. And then I came up with it and turned and threw a dart to first base. And I mean, that stadium erupted. And I was like, wow. Where am I? So, you know, I go on to say, I say that because these fans, the fans of Philadelphia, all you guys are like the most knowledgeable fans, the best fans to play for. I can't think of anybody I would have rather come up to an organization and play for other than Philadelphia. I mean, it was just it was a different step, a different class. It was just something about it. And although the fans, and I tried to tell, I was on a podcast about 2 weeks ago, Feeling Good show, and I told the fans it was a live show in a restaurant, and you know, my thought was all the guys like you guys were on the set, and they were talking about, you know, well, the Phillies, they get close, but they're, you know, they just fall short, and what do they need to do, this and that. Well, I know what that means, and you know, everybody was being kind of hard, but you guys know the game, so you were actually calling it out the way it is. Wasn't wrong with it. It's like, you know, bottom line, I heard it a dozen times. Well, you know, they need to start, you know, stealing some bases and playing better defense and playing small ball and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to go on there and start in on that note. What I did was, I meant what I said. You know, you got a great owner. You got an owner that is willing to put out everything for this team and the alumni and everybody and the fans. He's a great owner. And then you got a manager that's a great manager. He's got the chemistry with these guys in there, the clubhouse, because I was down on Tuesday and I had a talk with Rob, and we just talked baseball, you know, and then and you know, he's just a great man. He's a nice man. He's a great man. He's got his focus. And we talked a little bit, and you know, it's all about, I said, you know, some of the things I talk about is Smitty and I sat back and I remember us watching games. You probably don't remember, but I remember we sat back and was watching some videos. I'm kind of wondering why we're doing this. But as I got into it, and it's funny because now that I'm 65 years old and I'm thinking about the game, and I watch the game, and I'm coaching. I just came from baseball practice. I'm coaching kids, and I tell you what we came up with is pitchers go away to get ahead of you, and they go away to get you out 75% of the time. Period. That's what's going to happen. So if you're worrying about trying to hit home runs, during the way the game has changed now, you know, I say, you know, Well, all the Phillies need to do right now is do what they did the other night. I watched them. They had a tough game, close game, but then they started playing small ball and they came back,
Yes.
bam, bam, and won.
Yes.
If they got talent beyond belief in Philadelphia,
Yes.
if they will change their focus a little bit, not worrying about the home run thing, because if they're going to hit, you're going to get your home runs, but you
Yes, they're going to come.
advantage of these base runners that get on and moving runners. And I think that's most important. I said, you're playing small ball when you get in the playoffs in the World Series, because the last 2 years it happened both ways. And I called it out. I was sitting up with King Griffey Sr. on one game last year. And I said, and I'm looking at the TV up in the box and I'm looking at the game. And I said, we got a man on first base. And I said, as a pitcher, the pitcher's trying to keep him. He's holding him on. Nobody out, man on first base. And the pitchers, the first baseman's holding him on. The second baseman's double play depth. So there's a big hole over there.
Yeah.
The pitcher should be trying to pitch these guys in to keep them from hitting that hole.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But if the first pitch was a fastball middle away, it's like right there, and they take it. And then the next pitch is a fastball middle away, and they try to pull it and foul it off. Now, he just gave you 2 pitches to hit that right center gap or hit that hole between first and second and go first or third on this thing and win a ball game. So when you have those situations, those are the ones you have to learn to change the focus and take advantage of. I mean, they got the talent to do it. They can play this game. These guys, these kids that you have down in Philly, they're some ball players. I mean, they are good. And it's just a matter of a little bit of old school wisdom, I think, and playing a little bit more small ball and concentrating on those things and moving runners, I think, is more important than hitting home runs, because when you get down to the playoffs in the World Series, you're seeing number 1, number 2 starters, set up closers. Those guys are already honed to perfection because they're in the postseason.
Yep.
So these are your number 1. You're not going to just hit home runs off these guys.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So when you have to train yourself, and I think in the big leagues right now, I mean, I watched a bunt get put down, and nobody was covering first base. It's like if you start playing small ball,
Crazy.
I think if you start playing the game like that, we walk away with this league with the talent we have.
Yes.
And then once the opposition starts seeing, man, we can't get ahead with a fastball away because they're hitting they're blistering the ball to right field. They're hitting the gaps. When they start seeing that that's what they're doing, then you're going to start getting balls in there where you can.
Yes, sir. When you can turn on them and.
Yeah,
now,
but
now Steve, that's a question for you. Do you think this Phillies team is built to play small ball? I mean,
Absolutely.
so far they've done a very good job at it. But
it's a mindset.
Right. Are they going to go back to that? I got to just crank it. I just got to crank this thing out of here.
You see that I always call a home run a rally killer. It's a slump builder. A guy hits a home run. Next thing you know, that's all he's swinging for. And next thing you know, he's not hitting the ball like he can hit it. But
yeah,
right.
To answer your question, do I think they're to do it? Absolutely. They got the talent to do whatever they want to do. And the key word in there is want to do. If you concentrate on the things I'm talking about, and if they just sit down and watch a game, when you guys start watching these games, watch and see what pitchers are doing. If you just pay attention to that, because I watch them all the time, and I call pitches and I call what's going to happen. I tell people all the time, I said, they're going to stay away from them based upon their approach. I can stand at shortstop and watch you take the first pitch, and I know what you're going to do, what you're trying to do with the ball. If they throw a fastball on the outside half of the plate and you're flinching in, I know you're not trying to hit the ball the other way right now. Even if you don't swing at it, I know what you're trying to do.
There you go.
So, and as long as your pitchers have control or not wild in the strike zone, it's easy to play deep behind them. That's one of the things that people don't understand too. I had guys when I was sitting on the bench and pitcher would come back to me and say, "Jeltz, wouldn't you have caught that?" And I was like, "Man, don't do that to me." I said, "Did you hit your spot?" If you didn't hit your spot, no, I wouldn't have caught it. But I'm not trying to, I'm a team ball player. So whoever's playing, I'm backing you up. I'm not worried about that. When I get in there, I'm going to play as hard as I can play. When somebody else is in there, I'm rooting them on. We're trying to win a pennant together here.
Yes, sir.
This isn't where I'm worried about whether he's playing or I'm playing or whatever. And if you have too much of that, you're not going to win anything. You got to play as a team. And whoever's in there, you got to be pulling for them.
You said you coach. What are the ages of the guys you coach?
Well, I've been trained some guys that played some minor league ball, and then the kids I'm working with right now, I got 9U, and then I got the kids that are getting ready to go into high school. I'm trying to get them ready to make their team as freshmen. I'm trying to work with them, and then I kind of work around with all of them. I mean, if they're in the facility, we're at Turf Time in Carlisle. We're at Turf Time indoor facility, and tonight there was a couple of teams in there from the city. They were younger kids. I want to say 10 or 11. And so I just stopped over the cage and I'm watching them work with them. And then I see some things and I say, hey, get your foot down before you start your hands. I said, you got to get your foot down. You can't float to the ball. You got to load up, get your hands back. And then when you see the ball, you're not swinging at the ball. You're hitting the ball. You got to throw your hands down to that ball. You can't take this big, long swing with this uppercut and think if you get a fastball in the right place every now and then, you're going to hit one. You want to be a consistent hitter like Pete Rose told me when I first got to Philly. He said, you want, and nothing against Volkswagen, but back then, the Volkswagen was just a Beetle. They didn't have all these other cars, and they weren't like they are now. But he said it was between the Volkswagen and the Mercedes. He said, you want to drive a Volkswagen, be a pull hitter. You want to drive a Mercedes-Benz, he said, hit the ball where it's pitched. He said, period. He said, that's how the game is to be played. Plain and simple. And that came from Pete Rose. So we studied the thing. Schmitty was a guy that, how beautiful is it when you see Mike Schmidt get a fastball out over the plate and hit it to right center? It's beautiful. He doesn't crush everything to left. Field. He's hitting the ball in the power alleys, and he's hitting the ball dead center, and he's staying back, and that's what he's doing, but he's hitting the ball with his hands. And then Barry Bonds, same thing. I saw Bryce the other day when he was hitting, and I was at the game, and he got a fastball, middle away, and hands back, front foot got down, and then he just threw his hand down to the ball, line drive up the middle, base hit. Perfect form. But if you can tell he's concentrating on hitting the ball where it's pitched and not trying to hit balls, out of the ballpark when he walks up to the plate. Every now and then you can tell I'm gonna look for one in here, and but if you don't get it, I mean, for me, my mindset is middle away, and don't end up hitting 0-1 and 1 or 0-2 and 1-2. That's the hitter's count, and that's what I'm seeing happen a lot with some of the guys when they're trying to get that ball to hit out of the ballpark, and it's like hit early and often. If he gives you a fastball just to get ahead of you, hit the daggone thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't wait to be 0-1 and then start being on your heels. You look for your pitch until you get 2 strikes, middle away, and drive it back through the middle. Or, you're going to hit the ball out of the ballpark to right center just as easy as you can when you're pulling to the left if you're a right-hand hitter. If you're staying back and you're driving down through the ball, you actually have more power that way because you're loaded up and you're down through the ball. So, to limit yourself, you look in. If you're looking in, you can't hit anything else. If they throw off-speed pitch, if they throw the pitch away from you, you already committed to in. There's nothing else you're going to hit. So if you stay back and you try to hit the ball back up the middle or where it's pitched, you have a lot better opportunity of winning ball games. It's the bottom line.
Steve, when you played for Kansas City, what was it like playing with George Brett?
Oh my! So we called him Sweet Lou. So Lou, I remember the first half. He was hitting like 199 or 201 or something in the first half. I mean, he was hitting okay, but I mean, he was hitting some balls that were at people and what have you. And, I mean, the comfort level he had to have, I know he was a little frustrated when he was hitting, but he wasn't worried about it. But, in 1990, he ended up winning the batting title. At the All-Star break, he was hitting 200.
Wow.
I never seen anything like in my life. And I'm saying this coming from a team of Hall of Famers. I never seen anything in my life like that hitting exhibition he put on in the second half of the 1990 season. He ended up winning the batting title. He was pushing up to 400. I mean, he was crushing the ball. And I mean, every night, 4 for 4, 5 for 5, 4 for 5, every night in the second half of that 1990 season. He came back, and I mean, we need a home run, he hit one. We need another one, he hit 2. I mean he was just so on fire, unbelievable.
I mean, back then, I
never
know
seen anything like that. So, yeah.
Back then, I know, not to interrupt you, I know he was probably the second best third base behind Mike Schmidt during that era.
I'm telling you. I mean, I
World Series.
For me, I was supporting cast the whole time. I mean, when I came to play, I remember when I came into Philly, and and I was hitting, and I had two. I knew nothing about the National League and pitchers hitting and the strategy, anything. I'm 24 years old, so I got Pete Rose at first base, Joe Morgan at second, Mike Smith at third, lefty on the mound, Doug McGraw, Tony Perez, Gary Maddox, Matthews, Cisco Lescano, Bo Diaz catching. I mean, we just had a team.
Von Hayes.
And so
Yeah.
I come up with 2 outs and nobody on. And I get a 2-0 fastball up and out over the plate, and I hit a rocket line drive right at the second baseman. And I was like, damn, I kind of felt good. It was the 3rd out, and I'm like, hey, I ain't thinking, I said, I hit it good. I'll be able to do this. I'll be fine. So Pete and Joe bring my glove out to me. And I'm kind of walking with a little bit of a strut, like, yeah, I'm feeling good about it. And they cuss me out.
Oh.
They said, rookie, what the hell you think you're doing? I said, what? I hit that ball good. They said, if we wanted you to hit, we wouldn't have you in the number 8 hole. He said, you better learn how to roll this lineup over. And that's play defense and roll this lineup over. So now I'm going out to play shortstop and just got cussed out by my first baseman, my second baseman, after I hit a line drive out. And I still don't understand really what's happening. And so I go out and play second base or play shortstop, and I'm right in the game playing it. But when the inning's over, I go down and sit on the end of the bench, and I'm sitting there, and thank God Pete and Joe both, they came over to me because they knew they chewed me up, and they saw how I reacted to it, and it didn't even bother me. My dad was a command sergeant major, so you can't hurt my feelings. So I just went out there and played. And so, they came over and sit down and said, hey, Jeltz. He said, look, man, we didn't mean to be hard on you, but, we're in a pennant race. He said, when I say we thought about it. They thought about it. They said, you don't know. Pitchers don't hit in the minor leagues either, so you don't know. And I said, I don't know what. And they said, you have to roll. Look up there. And the pitcher's walking up to the plate leading off. And they said, we're playing this inning with 2 outs.
Wow.
So you get a 2-0, 3-1 with nobody on and 2 outs, and you get ahead of the count, take. Then you got 2 strikes, you're not swinging. You're waiting, you're trying to get on first base and get him out of the way so we can start this next inning fresh.
Gotcha.
And so now on the flip side of that coin, if you got men in scoring position with 2 outs, you can't go up there and take that walk, because if they're not trying to give me anything to hit with the pitcher coming up next, I promise you. And I drove in 38 runs one year from the 8 hole, and managers on Jim Leland especially, they'd be so mad. You letting Jeltz get a hit, and they got the pitcher coming up next. Are you kidding me, brother? He'd have a fit. And so you're not going to have an average, when you're hitting in the 8 hole in the National League. And I better do that job right with the team that I was playing on. They told me what I needed to do, and I learned how to do it. And so you got to have a high on-base percentage. And then in 86, the Phillies said they were going out to get left-handed hitting shortstop. So they came to me, and reporters came to me at the end of that season. And, all of a sudden, the 8-hole matters. I'm doing my job in the 8-hole, and you're going out to get a left-handed hitting shortstop. What are you talking about? You told me I did a good job. I'm doing what you told me to do. And so they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I guess I'm going to go home and teach myself how to hit left-handed.
Right. Except for one faithful game against the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1989 where you hit 2 dingers in one game.
But that's what I was getting. It's like people talk about, well, if you could only hit. And I thought to myself, somebody came to me and said, you're the only player in the history of Major League Baseball to teach himself how to hit left-handed in the big leagues and stay there. So I go to spring training the next year after I worked on hitting left-handed all winter long, and I come out, and I think we were playing against the Royals in Philly, and I was in Philly, and I come back to spring training. First pitch I saw from the left-hand side of the plate, I've been hitting off a machine. So the first pitch I saw from the left-hand side of the plate, I buckled because I'd never seen a pitcher throwing at me like that from that side of the plate. So I was like, oh, shit. It just didn't feel right being on the opposite side of the plate. And so now I said, I didn't count on this part. So now I got to bear down here and watch the release point, see the ball, forget about the motion, see the ball. And so I lock in, I get a couple pitches, and then he throws me a fastball out over the plate, and we're in Florida, and I hit it. I had tomahawked this thing and hit a fly ball down left field line, and the wind pushed it foul. It was a home run, pushed it foul. And then he drops a slider on me and strikes me out. So now I'm going back to the dugout, and these guys are like, yeah, Jeltz, you're right. Yeah, you go hit left-handed because I struck out. you know. So I'm like, yeah, well, that's my first at bat left-handed. Yeah, I mean, come on, give me a break here. So long story short, they had Tom Foley to come in and take my job and left-hand hitting shortstop, and I ended up hitting 474 in spring training and got the most valuable player trophy for camp as a starting shortstop for Philly. First time I hit left-handed. So now everybody talk about me hitting home runs, and it's like, well, I'm facing arguably the best pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball as a whole in the 80s. I mean, we're talking about Smoltz, Glavine, Smiley, Maddox, Doc,
Nolan Ryan,
Hershiser, I mean, Nolan Ryan. I mean, I can go on and on and on. All of them can pitch.
How was that Nolan Ryan fastball looking? How did that look coming at you? How did that Nolan Ryan fastball look coming at you?
If you're locked in, I mean, it's a fast fastball, but that's not the key. We knocked Nolan out in the third or fourth inning if he's just getting his fastball over. I'll tell you, the hammer, when he drops that curveball in for a strike and he's throwing it for a strike, it's going to be a long night. You got to worry about that thing too. You're not going to hit it. So, I mean, it's just when it starts at the top of the table and drops off to the bottom of the table, and it's about 88 miles an hour. It's nasty.
Ugh.
And so you're facing Nolan like that. If he's getting that curveball over, shoot, it's going to be a long night. I tell you now.
Wow.
I'll tell you a funny story. Nolan was pitching against us, and he throws a one-hitter against us twice. One time, Lil Joe got the only hit in Houston, but we come back to Philly, and later on in the year, and Nolan's pitching, and he throws a one-hitter, and Pete got the only hit. And so he came in the clubhouse after the game, and he says, how many hits you guys get tonight? He got the only hit, right? So, everybody, so the rest of the guys are like, yeah, ass, and they're kind of irritated with it. But me, now I'm thinking, oh, that's how you do this here? I said, okay. Very next night, I go 2 for 4. Pete takes a 0 for 2 with 2 walks. I can't wait to get in this clubhouse. So we come in the clubhouse, and I said, Pete, how many hits you get tonight? Trying to get back at him. And you know what he said? He said, rookie, I got more hits than anybody in the game. Sit down and shut the hell up.
Oh man!
So that's what I did. And after that, I was to be seen and not heard. I promise.
I can imagine.
I get that. Well, listen, Steve. That's we're running out of time here in the show. I know I can speak for the guys. Thank you so much for coming on with us. One question for you before I let you leave. White and red pinstripes or white and maroon pinstripes?
White and maroon.
Yes, sir. I figured as much. My favorite.
Mine as well.
Guys,
Steve Jeltz, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely. I want to leave you with one note.
Shoot.
When we come home as ball players in Philadelphia, we're home. Guys will go through slumps. It's a tough game. But as media, as fans, I know you guys got to do what you do, and you call it out, and you kind of analyze things and do what you do. But when we're out there, don't be too hard on these guys. It's tough. And then when we come home, we need you to be us. You guys are powerful. You guys, if you're cheering these guys on and not booing them, they're going to play better. Bottom line. Just know that. I mean, I know you guys get frustrated because it's a tough game, but everybody at that level can play. So remember, when the Phillies come home to the best fans in Major League Baseball, be the best fans in Major League Baseball for our own team.
Yes, sir. Hey, real quick, Steve, before you go, can you tell us a little bit about this Primal Sports on Facebook here?
Oh, yeah. That's my veteran youth organization. We're just getting it up and running. We're trying to pull together and build a Freedom Village, which would have emergency care unit, PX commissary, will house veterans. We're building the homes for veterans on the complex, and I want to build 16 fields with a stadium and just have this all veteran operated, just have them working it. And, you have security to get in there. And so it's a safety thing too. And then we're taking care of our veterans and they have all they need, right there. And then they're protecting the kids and the families that come out to watch the kids play. So that's what I'm working on. We're trying to get that done.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're sending all of our friends of the show to go check that out, and maybe they can give you guys some donations and stuff like that.
I'm not very good. I'm not very good with the website stuff, but I got a guy that's getting ready to put all the images up for the. I got some 3D images, and he's gonna put them on there. So I'll keep you posted and let you know when all that's done. And then the website will look good, and it'll be more. It'll let everybody know what's really going on.
And we'll get you back on the plug-in once that gets up and running as well.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Steve Jeltz, thank you so much again. We appreciate it, my friend. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
All right.
All right.
Sir. So Phil's, baby.
There you go. Go Phils. Well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Steve hung the whole time. That's it's greatly appreciated. Yes, sir.
Hurry down.
Well, listen, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We greatly appreciate it. For my man Alan Andrikavich, for Mike Fuji, for my man Willie Guns, Norm Deal behind the glass. I'm Tom Kelly. This is Pattison Ave Phanatics Show. We're out here.
Go.